Focus Panama. Competitive or unexplored market?
Welcome to SiGMA Americas. Today's focus will be on Panama, a market that has many opportunities to explore, and for that, we will be accompanied by Manuel Sanchez, the Executive Secretary of the Panama Game Control Board, and Karen Sierra, VP of LATAM and Caribbean from GLI. Manuel, Karen, welcome to the both of you. To begin, we're going to start by talking to you, Manuel. In Panama, we already know that it has legislated and approved online gaming since March. When the pandemic broke out all over the world, we wanted to ask you, how is the situation of online gaming in Panama today?
Yes, good afternoon. First of all, thank you very much, Fernando and Karen, for the opportunity to focus on iGaming news. Yes, Fernando, the online game in Panama is a reality. We created a new regulation on March 6th, which allows us to put Panama on the international market of online games. We're going to compete with countries like Argentina, Colombia, Peru, because Panama has a robust legislation. We have a legal security for those investors who want to come to Panama to establish their websites here. Be assured that you have a friendly regulator. In addition to that, because I have always said in these panels that I am a partner, I am not an inquisitive regulator. On the contrary, I want to work hand in hand with those investors who believe in Panama and put them on their platform, their betting websites in this country. Why do they believe in Panama? Because we have, I repeat, legal security. We have the dollar, we have an excellent geographical position. The Panamanian person culturally plays, and in addition to that, we have one of the highest minimum wages in Latin America. Having said this, Fernando, it only remains for me to tell you that Panama will indeed be an international competitor. And it only remains for me to tell you that those people who are watching these investors, that they believe in my country, that they believe in us, and that they have an open-door controlled meeting here.
Manuel, how many operators do you think will be authorized in the near future?
Very good question, Fernando. We have a legislation that allows an operator, that is to say, the owner of a license, to have 5 domains. When we talk about the domain, you have poker, we can have machines in force, you have sports betting, and now we are going to add bingo to those domains. Applications that we have right now are 3 at the moment. One of them is about to go out for approval. Panama has a board of directors that is made up of a full board that controls the games, which is a controller, a deputy, the deputy minister of finance, and myself. Once all the requirements have been met, we authorize them. What do we want? To have quality, not quantity. But in that quality, we do not want to exceed 10 to 15 licensees. But we do want them to come and comply with the regulations and, indeed, pay the prizes. We are going to deposit to a player who feels confident that they will play on the pages that are regulated by Panama, for the fact that we are going to bring the best. You will see. From September, when the first page will open, you'll see the propaganda. I can't give you that scoop because there are certain requirements to close it, but believe me, the first one coming up is the most important, and undoubtedly those to come are also very important for my country.
All potential operators who are interested in investing in Panama. What are the tax requirements to operate online gambling in Panama?
The issue to be able to operate in online gaming is that we have certain types of regulations that have to comply with the Resolution 11 of March 6, 2020. It is very important because here's Karen Sierra, whose company is in charge of providing us with all the technical standards that his resolution has, which are very strict. To be able to operate in Panama, you have to be authorized by one of the laboratories in my country. One of those is GLI.
Entonces, dicho esto, yo le quiero también...
Having said that, I would also like to thank Karen Sierra for the support she gave Panama in helping us to write technical standards. Although it is true that we are specialists in law, we leave the technicalities to those who know them well, which is the case of Karen, who gave us her help.
De Karen que nos brindó su ayuda, Fernando.
Let's give the floor to Karen at this point. Karen just talked about this issue. What I want to ask you is, what positive points you see in the regulation of online gambling in Panama? What makes it a great attraction for investors?
First of all, thank you very much, Fernando, Focus Gaming, and SiGMA for the invitation. Manuel, thank you very much for the recognition, and the appreciation is mutual. The confidence that Panama gives us to work together, especially being Panamanian, I can't stop saying it. But let's focus on the positive points of the regulation. I think compared to the Latin American regulations we are seeing, as well as internationally, it has a high level. A high level from the technical point of view, a high level from the administrative and legal point of view, but also very favourable for investment and for the interest that operators and also suppliers may have in entering Panama. An example of this is the issue of licensing. Manuel did not mention it, but in most of our jurisdictions in Latin America, somehow the online gaming license is married with a face-to-face gaming license. In Panama, this is not the case. You don't have to have a face-to-face gaming license to have an online gaming license. And that is an important part of the regulation. The issue of the types of games that are allowed, the regulation is permissive in the sense, it is very open, and eventually will allow different vertical types of games to be developed. Especially in these times of pandemic, where our providers are getting more creative every day, more than ever. There will be the possibility that they can be operated in Panama, and that helps a lot to the diversification and the possibility that the operators are successful. On the subject of cost, Manuel did not mention it in detail. The issue of the cost of taxation, of what is the key tax, but really it's very competitive, very attractive compared to the cost of other jurisdictions, especially in Latin America. So this part is also important, which are the means of payment, even though it is mentioned that they will be authorized by the bank, by the national bank. There is also the possibility that sports betting agencies in the gambling halls that already exist can have the process of recharging and collecting prizes, which is very important in our economies. Where there's still an informal economy and where we still have players who do not have access to the financial system, this is very important to be successful. The fight against illegal gambling, I think, is a question that is going to be asked of Manuel, but it is important that it is clear in the regulation, that the regulator will have the power to do it. The certification part, of course, is part of our work. Certification is, of course, available, but not for obtaining the contract, but before starting the operation. It's a little different from what we see in other Latin American jurisdictions, where it is a requirement before even having a contract. There is the possibility that the operator will comply with this requirement later. Responsible gambling and prevention of money laundering is very important. It is touched upon in regulation at the level of detail and at the level of international gaming regulations and good practice, from a legal point of view as well as from a technical point of view. And this is very important, again from the point of view of certification. Certification of the game platform, of the game content, as we see in other options. Integration. An important point of the regulation of Panama, as Manuel mentioned, we help each other in the technical part. It is based quite a lot on the standards of law. The standards of law normally leave open the possibility for the operator or supplier to develop the solution to meet the objective of the regulation. An example is reporting to the regulator, rather than requiring an inspection system, as is the case in some European or Latin American countries who are left open so that these reports can be presented to the regulator with a solution that the supplier establishes. But it is very well determined what the regulator needs to receive. The Game Control Board is simply the solution that will then be established by the supplier, to the obvious satisfaction of the regulator, and that it passes the decertification process. In responsible gaming, I would like to highlight something very important about Panama. It is the national exclusion list. In some of our jurisdictions, we still do not see the possibility where each self-exclusion list goes by operator, and makes responsible gaming control a little more difficult. Panama has this peculiarity that differentiates it from many other jurisdictions as well. I'll stop here to give Manuel the prominence he deserves, and to continue telling us about it from his point of view.
It was very, very important, even the concepts you were providing, Karen, so thank you very much for that. Within your presentation, you mentioned a topic that is quite interesting for potential investors in a bank in Panama, which is the topic of illegal gambling. So, Manuel, I want to ask you how Panama is going to handle the issue of illegal gambling.
Yes, your question is very good. Thank you, Karen. Look at illegal gambling. I have the power for the first time. This resolution that regulates online games gives the power to an executive secretary of the Gaming Control Board to block. Obviously, I have the legal power, but I don't have the technology. In that, I depend on the government's innovation authority, which is something else that Panama has. And we are already working on guidelines where we're going to block more than 250 illegal domains that exist in Panama. Because now in Panama, there are indeed companies that have sports books. They have physical sports books, and even those companies that have physical sports books compete with more than 250 illegal pages and the numbers that are attractive in my country. Imagine, I, as an authority, have already sent these guidelines. Once all these illegal pages are removed, the ones that do not generate any income to the state, do not help the poor children, do not pay the pensions or retired people, do not guarantee the prize to the gambling public, and do not fight irresponsible gambling. This is an issue I mentioned earlier, Karen. We here in Panama have demanded that all these websites enter to capture bets from the fellow countrymen from all around the world, that they have a logo, and that they have been approved by my board of directors, which says to play responsibly. It's also part of the game. From there, we have a list of self-exclusion. Here in Panama, we also have a very nice project to combat pathological gaming. We are going to set up clinics. The pilot plan will start in San Miguelito, a district here in Panama. The first clinic will be set up to care for gambling addicts, which are very few in my country. In the end, we want for people, I repeat, to play responsibly, to spend what they have left over, not what they lack. And in that sense, we ask the operators who are going to enter Panama to bring the web pages that have the logo, that have a very nice compliant icon. The call center will also have a large majority of the Panamanians who have settled here. We have looked for regulation, a regulation that somehow helps our citizens, and in the end, at least there is a very nice job to be done, both by the state and by the private company that is going to invest in Panama.
Well, Manuel, thank you very much for your ideas. There are only 2 minutes left to finish this panel. Is there anything interesting that you both want to say before closing? Karen, I'm going to give you the floor first.
Thank you. I'm surprised that there are 2 minutes left, so I'll speak quickly. But no, definitely sell. Sell to Panama is what we want to do on this panel. Sell the idea of investing, of arriving, and of entering the jurisdiction. I think to understand our country of 4 million people, it is true. It's not a large country in terms of population. But as Manuel mentioned, players who have a strong playing culture, that of the country's gross domestic product, is very attractive. What the face-to-face gaming industry generates is very significant. 390 million or so. I understand the point of view of face-to-face gaming to be a way of understanding the size of jurisdictions. Really, the opportunities are endless, and it is to understand that it is an opportunity to enter the region. And also with operators that are in the country already for face-to-face gaming, which is also at a regional level and can open opportunities in other jurisdictions as well. So with that I close and leave the floor to Manuel.
Excellent. Thank you, Karen. Manuel Serrano, you then. We have 1 minute left.
First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity. And all that remains for me to tell you is to believe in my country. It is a country with a legal security that, although Karen has said we generate more than $150 million in taxes to the state. A product of face-to-face game slot machines. I'm going to tell you about gambling and sportsbook. There are companies that will generate up to $1 million a month in profits only on sports betting. Imagine that you have the sports one. the one of online machines.
blackjack en vivo, obviamente.
Obviously, this is going to be much higher than what we currently generated. For me, it only remains to say that those who see and hear us, Fernando, that they believe in my country and that they have an open door regulator, and that Panama, without a doubt, is going to be the competitor to observe. To observe on an international level that Panama is going to be a great competitor. In the online games, your regulator tells you this.
Karen, Manuel, thank you very much for participating in SiGMA Americas, and we hope to see you very soon.
Thanks a lot. See you later. Bye.